Hey everybody. I just want to talk briefly about this whole Ken Penders deal. I've talked about this many times before on Sonic Comic News and just individual videos as well, and apparently from what I've been reading, it seems a lot of people have basically said the same thing. Ken Penders is out of his fucking mind right now. First of all, we all know that he started a lawsuit against Archie Comics and SEGA due to the fact that they were using his stories and stuff like that, in the comics without giving him any recognition. Now all of a sudden he's adding EA Electronic Arts to that list of people he's taking to court. Why? Because EA Electronic Arts was partially responsible, if not fully responsible, along with SEGA, for bringing out Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood. Now, apparently from what he has said, Electronic Arts, SEGA basically ripped off his storylines. And he's probably right in his own way. Maybe he's right. We don't really know, but he's basically pissed off at the fact that he feels he was ripped off. He wasn't given any credit, any royalties for the use of his characters or for the similarity to his storylines. Now this does kind of put into jeopardy a lot of things that a lot of fans are fearing could happen. You see, because Ken Penders is suing not just SEGA and Archie and now Electronic Arts, but a lot of people, the more they read on the updates and the information that Ken Penders gives out, the more it sounds like that if Ken Penders wins, there's going to be certain characters in the comic and there's going to be certain characters from the games that we may never see again, unless Ken Penders gets paid a royal amount of money. For example, one character from the Chronicles game, which has become a hugely popular character, although we haven't seen her much lately, and is possibly due to this lawsuit, is Shade. Shade the Echidna. The thing, from what people are just describing and saying, is if Ken Penders wins this whole shebang, we may never see Shade in another video game again, because she's practically Ken Penders' character. Now, the whole thing with Archie Comics and SEGA is entirely different. All Ken wants, in his opinion, is he wants credit for things that are used, for characters and stories that are used and referenced. Now, this kind of brings up the question as to why we haven't seen certain characters in the comic over the past few months. A lot of people say, well, Ian's already wrote the stories well in advance, which is true, possibly, very, very true, and that he had no recognition or recollection of, he didn't know basically this was going to happen when he wrote the stories, basically. However, it's not to say that he didn't. Just because he wrote the stories, though, doesn't mean he couldn't revise them to where it wouldn't interfere too much with what was happening. For example, one of the most talked about things fans have talked about over the past few months is the fact that Hershey the cat, or Hershey St. John, was killed off screen, supposedly. Now what does that mean? Well, that obviously means she's either dead or she's one of those slaves that helped gather the power rings for Eggman. It's the only thing I can think of. Now, why would this fit into the whole Ken Penders deal? Well, because she's the only character that's owned in Ken's mind by him. Now, that brings up light of a subject, if you will. It brings up something that's very, very interesting. I'm going to look it up right now on the SEGA forums. But basically what this brings up, folks, is the fact that well, where is it? I know it's in here somewhere. It might be on the other boards. But what it brings up, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that Ken Penders has now come out and said that Hershey's not the only character that belongs to him. And what I'm saying by that, like I said, what I mean by that is, if I can find it here somewhere, I know they added it. Oh, here we go. Basically, Ken Penders is mentioning, if I can find it here somewhere, like I said, I know it's around here somewhere. And okay, this is what Ken Penders says here. He says Julie Sue, Locke, Jeffrey St. John, Juliana, Kraget, Kragok, the Dark Egg Legion, Urjak, Dimitri, Edmund, Linda, and Queen Alicia, to name but a few of the many characters appearing in my stories, they're all mine. They weren't inspired by anything SEGA produced, nor did they exist prior to the stories in which I created them. Without a specific written transfer of rights from me to Archie, neither they or SEGA can lay claim to what I created. All they received when they paid me for my stories was first publishing rights. That's it. So basically what he's saying here is the characters that we have not really seen much and we have seen basically are belonging to him. So this might connect in some ways to what Ken Penders talked about one time in one of his statements when he said, you know, that the reason Genesis was being done right now in the way it is because they want to avoid any association with him. So in other words, after Genesis, we don't know what's going to happen, despite what Ian may say. So basically what he's saying is that these characters belong to him, which to me would explain why we haven't really seen Julie Sue that much, why we haven't really seen Hershey, why we're just barely seeing Jeffrey St. John now, you know, why we haven't seen Linda for a couple of issues, why we haven't seen Dimitri for a couple of issues, why Locke was taken out and hasn't been brought back like many people feel he could be. It's basically due to the fact that these are all Ken's characters, I guess. And like I said, Ian Flynn could, you know, he could write a story well in advance before any of this whole lawsuit deal against Archie and against SEGA and against EA took place, but he also has time to revise it. That's the thing we got to look at, the revising. He could change things, he can edit it so it fits in there. So my honest opinion about this is the reason we haven't seen certain characters like Hershey, why she's supposedly dead, and why we haven't seen Julie Sue, and why everybody's in a way predicting St. John could be the one that dies, you know, at the end of Genesis, is the fact that you know, Ian Ian Flynn and Archie, I guess in Ken's mind, are trying their best to avoid any connection with him. And to him, this is why Genesis is happening. I don't think that's the reason. Honestly, I'm hoping to God that's not the reason. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you feel that way too. But, you know, I know people are desperate for money these days. And they're desperate to do anything. And I know a lot of people, and I agree with them, say that if Ken wanted to do this, he should have done this, you know, right after he left or something. But I don't know. But honestly, whatever's going to happen, it's going to happen. But again, you know, this might explain why we haven't seen certain characters and why certain characters are, you know, not being seen in the comic that much, because I think, honestly, if this does have anything to do, if the comics, if the non-appearing, the missing, the MIA-ing of these characters like Julie Sue and Hershey and the rarely seen appearances at times, except well, not rarely seen, but the absence of certain characters for a few issues and the rarely seen characters, might explain why, they're being done that way. So, honestly, I don't know what's gonna happen. Hopefully whatever occurs won't affect the comic, and perhaps we'll see the characters back again. But right now, my honest opinion is this whole Ken Penders deal is causing people like Ian Flynn, despite how people feel about him, to have to probably revise what they've already written. So that's just my take on that, and tell me what you guys think, and I'll talk to you later.